Good evening. This is Charles Stark speaking for the Kraft Foods Company, makers of the world's favorite cheese, who bring you two fine plays each week all year long on the Kraft Television Theater.
Hey everyone, it's Jonathan. Welcome back to Wonderland Wednesday. Today we're talking about the Kraft Television Theater version of Alice in Wonderland. Yes, Kraft, like the cheese company. This special is hosted by Edgar Bergen and Charlie McCarthy, and it's one I had intended to do a podcast on ages ago. It first came across my radar probably back in 2017. I remember watching at least part of this with Sarah back when we were first recording the shorter video reviews for Wonderland Wednesday in the early days of my YouTube channel. But somehow we never ended up doing it, and I kind of forgot about it. Then it came up again a few years ago, around the time we did Walt Disney's Alice in Wonderland, or at least the promotional materials surrounding Disney's version, because Edgar Bergen had also hosted one of those TV specials, but we still never ended up doing this one at that time. I definitely had intended to, because Jenna and I had talked about a few things we wanted to cover soon, and I stuck a sticky note on my desk way over a year ago to remind me to do this one, probably not long after we talked about those Disney specials, and we still haven't covered any of them because all those sticky notes are still on my desk. Well, here we are, over a year later, and I'm trying to get rid of a few of them, so the first sticky note is coming down today. Okay, we're finally getting to this one after, 8.5 years. I feel like this is one that Sarah and I had talked about doing back at the beginning of Wonderland Wednesday, and we never did, because I remember watching the beginning of this, at least, with her. I don't think it made much of an impression on her because I asked if she wanted to join us on this one and she said no, not really. So
Yeah, it is a skippable one, in my opinion. I feel like this is only really interesting for the nerds.
probably there were a couple things that made me chuckle, but for the most part, I was a bit bored.
Yeah, probably. I think the first time I saw this was actually in a real archive.
Hmm.
It was before it was so the copy we have now is from a private collector, essentially.
Okay.
The one in the archive is slightly better quality, but yeah, it was like the first early television Alice I ever got to see that. So there was some excitement for me, but it was more just because I was at an archive watching it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that would make a difference. I would feel different about it if I was actually somewhere special watching it.
Yeah, and it was the same trip I watched the Hallmark Alice, which is
Hmm.
also an early television Alice, right at, so 1955, and that one blew this one right out of the water.
I think Sarah
So,
and I did that one years ago.
yeah, you did. I think so. So, yeah, it's an interesting Alice, but it's not necessarily a great one. And
Uh,
I think what makes it interesting is actually for all the wrong reasons. Um, so, when you watch this production, and I'm not an early television history buff myself, only when it relates to Alice because I have a special interest. Um, but the production of this one feels very informal to the point of almost being lazy, or at least it feels like the people on set were not taking it very seriously. Which maybe that could be a fun informal atmosphere, or maybe it's just not professional. I don't know. All I know is right after. So when I watched this one first, and I was like, I guess that was just what early television was like. And then I saw the Hallmark Alice immediately afterwards, which was only a year after, and that one had such a tight production.
uh-huh.
Everyone was quiet on the set. There was never a mistake. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe, maybe not. Maybe that was unusual. I still, I think the 50s were probably a mixed bag because I have seen multiple things that were very extremely professional, and then on the other side, a little bit more loosey-goosey, and there were some mistakes.
I
Um,
wondered if this was one of those cases where this wasn't what aired, but it also had the commercials, at least the copy I watched.
oh, this was what aired,
Okay.
definitely. Yeah, this is a Kinescope.
That's what I was going to ask, was because this didn't
Yeah,
seem, because I watched the Rodgers and Hammerstein Cinderella for the podcast years ago,
yeah.
and the earliest one with Julie Andrews was a kinescope, and it wasn't what had aired. It was
Oh,
they had filmed a monitor in the during like a production rehearsal, I think. So the what had aired was probably better than what we have now for the Julie Andrews, Rodgers and Hammerstein Cinderella. But this reminded me of that.
as far as I am aware, maybe somebody will come out of the blue and make me eat my words. But as far as I'm aware, this is what aired. Um,
Okay.
I haven't been aware of anything else different from that. So yeah,
Yeah, because parts of it just seemed off. Like at one point, someone just walked in front of the camera.
yeah, yeah, they did. Which, they did broadcast live at that time. So it's not out of the realm of possibility for
Hmm.
accidents to happen. But yeah, that was pretty funny. But yeah, I also I don't remember if this one was performed multiple times or not, because sometimes some of these productions were formed multiple times.
Hmm. I think that
I
was the
think,
case with that Rodgers and Hammerstein Cinderella. Because they didn't have repeats back then,
yeah,
so it was really a television play.
yeah. I don't think I remember if it was performed multiple times. I'm trying to look it up. No, I don't think I have any information about that. I have to say I don't research this Alice as much as other Alices, as you can imagine. That said, though, I do have a few like photo or oh my gosh, like photo negatives from this Alice
Hmm.
from the production, just because I like obscure pieces of of Alice stuff.
Uh-huh.
Um, like, are you a real fan if you don't have photo negatives from a really rare Alice that nobody watches? No, you're not. I'm kidding. Of course you are. Um, no, it's just I just like being stupid like that. But anyway, I just don't know very much about why they made this Alice, anything behind the scenes. All I know is it's not as tight of a production as other early television productions I've seen, and some of it is very, very 50s to probably its detriment at times. I'm sure we'll talk about some instances of some off-color jokes, or, well, I don't know. Should we just go into it?
Sure. The only thing I can think of is like right at the beginning where the puppet tells Edgar Bergen to get out of there so he can be with Alice alone.
Yeah, so this is if you watch anything with Edgar Bergen, like his favorite puppet is Charlie, and his I always find this interesting. So, actually let's take even further step back. This is Edgar Bergen's second time doing something Alice related for television. His
Yeah,
first
we
time
talked
was,
about the other one last year, I think.
yeah, the 1950 one-hour Wonderland production to promote Walt Disney's Alice in Wonderland. So it's interesting that he did another one so soon, though this one was actually more a production of the actual story
Uh-huh.
versus the other one, which was just basically a promotion,
Yeah.
and ended up being about multiple Disney properties. But both productions, Charlie the Puppet has this very like weird shtick of hitting on little girls,
I'm
which
trying to remember if he did the same thing in Fun and Fancy Free, because he was in that also.
I think that one was toned down. I don't remember him directly hitting on the little girl in that one. But part of me kind of wonders if he did, if they ever edited it out, because Disney has been guilty of going back and doing that to their older properties.
Hmm.
As far as I'm aware, they haven't. But yeah, I don't remember him hitting on the little girl in that. But like everything else I've seen on this, Charlie hits on the little girls, and it's so creepy and really uncomfortable.
Especially if you
Um,
have a fear of dummies.
yeah, which again, well, in the 50s, I guess that wasn't as big deal. But Edgar
Probably
Bergen
not.
was huge. But the thing about Charlie the puppet is I'm never quite sure what age his character is supposed to be.
That's kind of what I was wondering. I don't know if we
Yeah,
talked
like
about it before,
sometimes he
but
seems like a child, and like
yeah.
Edgar's almost like his dad or something, or his uncle. And then other times, in that case, if he was a child, it's not as creepy. Like it'd still be a little bit creepy to me because it's still a grown man,
Uh-huh.
but puppeteering, or ventriloquism, whatever you call ventriloquisting. um, but sometimes like Charlie has a very almost adult sense of humor.
Yeah.
So then it's like Is he a child? I can't tell. He seems to be an in-between child. A teenager? It's still kind of creepy. Like,
I think he's probably one of those characters that is whatever age the story needs him to be.
I don't even know if it's story. I think it's based on whatever moment it requires him
Yeah.
to be funny. So in this, he could be an adult, and then the next moment he's a child, so he could hit on another child. It's I don't know. It's very strange. Maybe Edgar Bergen fans would pop in and be like, actually, canonically, he is 14 or something, and like, cool. But I don't have that context. I guess maybe you would have had that context back at that time, but I honestly think that viewers in the 50s didn't care that much. They just thought it
No,
was funny
yeah.
for whatever reason. As a modern adult, I do not think it's funny. It just strikes me as creepy, but whatever.
It's one of those things where it happens and I kind of raise my eyebrows and I'm like, well, it was the 50s, moving on.
This is the most it was the 50s adaptation ever. Um, which is funny because there's actually quite a few adaptations for the 50s. But this one in particular, for instance, like smoking is huge. Even though we have a character that smokes, the caterpillar, we don't,
Uh-huh.
he doesn't usually actually smoke, or if he does, it's very like minimal usually,
Uh-huh.
or maybe it's done with a special effect.
I think he was really smoking because he blew right in Alice's face.
Yeah, this is one of the few adaptations where I think the caterpillar actually blows into Alice's face like twice. He does it all the time in the animated Disney Alice, but like that's an animated Alice. There's no real kid getting smoke blown into her face. This is a real little girl with smoke being blown into her face twice. It's quite weird. You would never see that nowadays.
Yeah.
I don't even think you would see that. I know there's a lot of like fake smoking with stage musicals and productions now, but I don't even think they would do that with fake smoke. Also, the trial scene is like incredibly like the smokiest trial scene ever, which is quite a record to have. The king comes in, he's smoking, the caterpillar's smoking. He's like, "You can't smoke," and he's
That
like,
that
"Well, you're
that did
smoking,
kind
but
of
I'm the
make me laugh
king."
because the caterpillar, I think that's the first time I've ever seen the caterpillar interact with anybody else in the story other
Yeah, it
than
was very
Alice.
unusual.
It made me laugh because the king's like getting after the caterpillar for smoking, and he's like, "Well, you're smoking." He's like, "Well, the king can smoke a little."
Yeah,
I don't know why that made me laugh.
probably just because it's so unusual.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. There's this weird moment also in the trial where Charlie just gives this very strange story about sorry if this offends anybody, but this is what the production says, quote unquote Indians.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah, like surrounded by Indians, and he gets them all with one bullet by just shooting a little bit of the bullet at each one.
I feel like I've
And
heard that before, so I think he's reciting some kind of an old joke.
is it
Because
a
that sounded
reference?
familiar to me.
Mm. I do not know what the reference is. All I know is every single time I watch this, I forget that that happens, and I'm always confused. Like what are you talking about? And the king said they like, well, shave off a little bit of his head each time you try to execute him, I guess. That's another thing about this one as well, is that it's sort of, usually the queen is kind of the
Yeah.
star,
The
but in
king
this
like took
one,
over most of the queen's lines.
yeah, this one it's the king. I know that the king was played by, I guess, a prominent actor. Oh no,
Bobby
I forgot his
Clark.
name. Was
Bobby
it?
Clark. I have them all written down, even though I don't know
Yeah,
almost all of them.
hold on, I got it somewhere.
The king was Bobby Clark, but I don't know
Okay,
really
I
who
actually
that is.
thought it was, but I didn't want to be wrong. Yeah, so Bobby Clark, and my guess is for some reason because he was very prominent at the time. For some, they wanted to let him have the
Probably.
handle of that scene, but like he barely knows his lines. You see him like stumbling all the time.
I wonder if that
Eh,
was part of his shtick. Because on IMDb it says he's a famous vaudevillian.
I don't know. It kind of reads to me as like not fully knowing his lines to me, but I have no idea.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, how did I miss this?
What?
He was the Duchess in the Hallmark one.
Was he? Oh,
I missed that when I was making my notes last night.
I missed that, yeah. Well, he's much better at that one. I guess another strange thing about these 1950s adaptations, or at least the Kraft television theater one and the Hallmark one, is that the Duchesses are played by men, which is kind of a staple of Alice at this time for some reason,
Hmm.
that kind of over time ended up going out of style. It's fine.
I didn't feel like this Duchess was all that memorable. Well, most of the people in this weren't all that memorable, actually. So I guess it's par for
Yeah,
the
they were all
course.
just okay. The only one I really cared about was Arthur Treacher, because I used to grow up watching Shirley Temple films, and he'd be the butler. Um,
Okay. I knew the name Arthur Treacher, and that was about the only thing. Like he was also in Mary Poppins, so I knew
yeah,
his name from there and some Shirley Temple movies I saw when I was really young, but
yeah.
I didn't really know him.
He was kind of in everything at the time, but at the same time, he didn't really have much going for him, to be honest. He was mostly like a an English butler character, but in this, he is the Cheshire Cat. And when I actually found out he played the Cheshire Cat in this, just from a random news article I found, or it wasn't a news article, but it was like a magazine article, and it was actually of another Alice he was in, that was also on television, but that one's lost. Or well, it was recorded on a kinescope. I think it was 1949 through the Crystal Ball, and he's like wearing a clown costume for that one.
What
But then
character?
I looked at his IMDb and I saw that this one was also listed, and I was like, what the heck? Why is he playing two Cheshire Cats? Was he known for playing the Cheshire Cat at the time or something? I don't know.
So was he the
But
Cheshire Cat in the other one also?
yeah, he was.
As a clown?
Well, a Cheshire Cat and clown costume, yes. I mean,
Huh.
I don't make the rules here, you
Okay.
know.
No
If they
weirder than
wanted to.
having a ventriloquist dummy follow Alice down the rabbit hole, I guess.
Yeah. But this one is I don't know, I just find that curious. And I'm curious if he was like playing the Cheshire Cat in a play or something of Alice, but I don't think I found anything about if he did or not. But yeah, and the way they have his costume is really interesting. So in this one, and one of the pictures actually I have two pictures of him, my photo negatives of him in this production. One is like getting his makeup painted on, which a side note here, the makeup in this production I think is horrendous. It's mostly like clown makeup.
I couldn't really tell because the camera quality was so bad.
Well, I think that was it. They exaggerated the makeup so it looks more like clown makeup. So you could see the makeup on the camera, I guess. Whatever.
Yeah,
But in this, so like he doesn't really have much of a costume besides his face is painted, and then he has like a hood, with cat ears on the top, and the rest of his quote unquote costume is like a statue
hmm.
that he puts his head through, which is interesting. I don't think I can remember another version like that. It's a choice. I don't think it's a good choice. Like, I think he's still pretty decent of an actor, but like he's very limited by it. When he says in that direction, like he points his eyes to indicate a direction. But yeah, so he's the only actor I really cared about. Robin Morgan as Alice was okay. She's sweet. She probably would have been okay in an actual production of Alice. She's not one of my favorite Alices, but like she does seem to engage with the material. She's not just reciting lines. Interestingly, she would actually become a feminist and wrote Sisterhood is Powerful when she was an adult.
Yeah, when I looked her up on IMDb, her credits stopped not long after this production,
Mm,
but the picture of her was of her as an older lady. So I was
yeah,
like, okay, well, if she stopped acting in the 50s and her picture on IMDb is of her, an older lady, she's got to be famous for something else.
yeah,
So I went to Wikipedia and looked her up, and yeah, she became a poet and a radical feminist, and it looks like she had a very long, interesting life. Well, has. She's not dead yet, so I shouldn't
yeah,
say
yeah.
had. But yeah, she went on to do much greater things than play Alice on one random special in the 50s.
Yeah. I haven't engaged with her work as a feminist, but it sounds like she's very influential. But I do think, I don't know, I just think it's interesting sometimes watching this in context of that she'd become this huge feminist. Because at one point, they're like, oh, when she has the baby, like, oh, what a cute little mother. Like,
Oh, yeah.
and I cringe on the inside, like, oh, I wonder if she, like, even at
This
that time,
production radicalized her.
yeah, she's just like, ugh. Like, I imagine it probably wasn't an immediate effect. maybe, maybe also the puppet hitting on her. She's like, ugh. But yeah, but it's cool that she was able to have such a influential career after this. Do you know anything about any of the other actors in this? I don't remember anyone else prominent.
And I don't think I really knew anybody. Like even Arthur Treacher. Like if I had not known in advance that that was him, I would not have recognized him. Edgar Bergen is the only one that I knew before, I think, that would have stood out to me as someone that I know. Because most everybody else either had a very short IMDb or this was the only thing they did on some of them, like The Flowers, I think. But they were
Yeah,
also Broadway actors. So
yeah,
they probably did lots of stuff that was never filmed.
yeah. Art Carney sounds familiar, but I don't know what I would have known him from.
That name also sounds familiar to me. I think he was in some old sitcoms. He was in The Honeymooners, which I've never seen, but I know that's like a really famous one.
Mm,
He had a role in The Muppets Take Manhattan. I'm gonna guess he was probably one of those celebrity cameos that I would not have known as a child.
yeah.
Oh, he was in the Star Wars Holiday Special. I bet he was that merchant. Have you seen the Star Wars Holiday Special?
Out of all the Star Wars things to be in, that's the one.
I mean, it's horrible, but I'd watch it again. It's so bad, but it's bad in a very entertaining way.
Christmas in Disneyland as Gramps. Well, I have something to add to my watch list, I guess. I mean, he was also thinking about it, he was also pretty decent as the Mad Hatter. In particular, I always feel like his eyes are quite mad.
I will say, of all of the actors in here, he stood out to me as one of the best, which
Yeah,
is probably why he's the one with a name that more people would recognize besides Arthur
yeah,
Treacher. But he really did feel like a Mad Hatter, whereas everybody else felt like somebody in a costume.
yeah. This is one of those weird productions where it's like it seems like there's talented people involved, but like it's not necessarily a great production of like the characters, if that makes sense. It just
Yeah,
kind of feels like they're there. I don't know.
it was probably one of those things, because this is one of those shows, the Kraft Television Theater, where they like did a different play every week, so they were probably just trying to cobble together a cast, and they just got whoever was available. I kind of
Yeah.
don't think anybody that made this was like, "Oh, I love Alice. I'm so excited to be this character." I think they probably were just there for a paycheck.
Yeah, probably. Everyone else, I don't have any comments on, except for I hate the rabbit and the hare because they both have this like weird, like silly voice that's just actually it's grating to hear. And it's like,
Yeah.
please stop.
I should mention one of the things that made me laugh was the revelation of Mortimer Snurd as the baby.
Yeah, it's very unexpected.
Because that's another one of Edgar Bergen's famous puppets, the weird little Mortimer Snurd. So
Yeah.
he had a cameo as the baby, and that I thought was clever and made me laugh.
I do think instead of did you say pig or fig, the cats instead asked, did you say snurd or bird?
Uh-huh.
That's clever too, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
There were a couple times, I wish I'd written it down. There was a couple times where there was a line that I know was not from the book, but I felt like it actually fit within like the way Lewis Carroll would have wrote.
do you remember
Not the
any
whole
lines like
thing.
that?
The only thing that's coming back to me is the bit about the smoking the king, but there was something else too. I can't think of it right now. I wish I would have written it down.
Yeah, well, that's all right. I did write some quotes, but nothing that I felt Lewis Carroll would have written, but I'm pretty picky about that, I guess. I do have a few quotes though. I have my psychiatrist will never believe this, which is a pretty funny quote. I also have, it's not proper to drink from a bottle, but I don't see a glass, which I thought was a strange thing to add. At the very beginning, Edgar Bergen says a rabbit with pink ears instead of pink eyes, which is a strange choice.
There was a couple
I,
lines like that too, where it was the line from the book, but like one word was wrong. I was like,
yeah, and
well,
it's like
that's a
I
little
wasn't
odd.
sure if he just made a mistake or if they actually changed it.
Yeah, I couldn't tell. I kind of another reason why it felt kind of thrown together because the lines
Yeah,
seemed like they might be just kind of wrong.
actually, speaking of mistakes, I kind of wonder if another mistake, when Alice drinks from the bottle, she actually says something, tastes, she lists all the flavors. She strangely says coffee, which I'm like, how American. Um, so I do kind of wonder if she meant to say toffee, because coffee seems like a strange thing to have a kid drink, but I don't know.
Well, one of my sisters-in-law lets her kid drink a little bit of coffee and he loves it.
Oh Lord. I mean, I loved it when I was a teenager. I'm sure he does.
He's 3, so
Oh no.
she doesn't give him much, but he really wanted to try it and he loved it. So
I don't think that's good for his health, but I don't know. I think the first time I had coffee just as a teenager, I went nuts. I like drank a whole ton. I don't drink coffee anymore. Now I'm tired all the time. Anyway, some of the way things were built in this production were kind of interesting. So like the rabbit holes, the slide, for instance.
uh-huh.
I think that's fun.
It kind of made sense for what they needed to do for the production.
Yeah, the table leg that Alice climbs up is a ladder, which is an interesting idea, though kind of weird because no table leg looks like that. But, whatever. But I think the most interesting thing is that for the Mad Tea Party, the table is a treadmill. And they don't do enough with this, actually. I wish they did a lot more with the treadmill table. So they crank it and, like, the tea things go and some of them fall off, I assume. It was just an interesting concept. Instead of having them change places, like the table changes.
Yeah,
I kind of think this is something another adaptation should try as well.
there were a few instances like that where it felt like they put more effort in than they did in the rest of the production.
Yeah, I've noticed in multiple of these early television versions of Alice that there will be a growing shrinking thing, but they don't do the full scene. Like she does in the book, in the story, she grows small, but she's forgotten the key on the table, so she grows
Uh-huh.
too big, and then she grows too small again.
That didn't really surprise me because this is only an hour. I figured
Yeah,
they weren't going to do the whole thing because, well, also, how do you do the Pool of Tears on a television budget?
yeah. I get why they skipped the pull of tears, but some of them are weirdly shortened. Like, well, this one in particular. So she grows small, and then she forgets the key on the table, but the ladder is part of the table leg, so she just climbs up. And I'm like, what's the point of her forgetting the key on the table? Why not just have her shrink, save some more time? Somebody was just like, I really want to use a ladder as a table leg. Don't take this away from me. That's what I want to do. Like, oh, one thing, this one kind of had like screen effects, which are kind of interesting for being early television. So like when Alice was going down, for instance, like the screen looked like it was wavy,
Uh-huh.
and the shrinking of, so they, Alice herself doesn't shrink on the screen. It's just kind of you see her, and then later she's like spinning into I think she's spinning into like the larger set. But then when Edgar Bergen and Charlie shrunk, they actually had like an on stage, on screen effect of them shrinking, which wasn't that believable, but I think was probably impressive for the time, because it looks like it was an overlay or something.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of, that's how they did the cat as well. The cat was also overlay. You kind of see like they literally use like screens to make the cat's body disappear.
Uh-huh. I thought that was clever because
Yeah,
otherwise it would have been a lot harder of an effect to pull off.
yeah. I mean, it works well enough for what it is.
Yeah,
I guess the vibe this one has is more like a if you're watching a neighbor's play or something
kind of.
than a professional production.
A play that they
Like,
keep stopping to try and sell you cheese. That
Oh my
made me
gosh.
laugh. the
The
way
the
the way they stopped and talked about making a recipe, and the recipe was just put cheese whiz and some spinach.
oh my gosh. Can I just say it looked disgusting. It looked like so gross. And I was like, did American families really watch this and think that looked appetizing? I guess they must have.
I mean, this is the era where they were putting meat and olives into Jello, so it probably
Uh,
was high cuisine for some people.
and somehow it's the British who have the reputation for having bad cuisine. I really think it's the Americans.
Especially in the 50s and 60s and
Yeah,
70s.
this is war, just it's God. I was like, this is disgusting. I think I skipped it a little bit. Like, send for recipes. Like, no, I will never.
When it got to that part, I was like, I wonder if somebody ever actually sent in for the recipes because, like, what is there to remember? The one was just literally making a sandwich. Are you going to forget mayonnaise or Miracle Whip or whatever it was, lettuce and cheese? Are you going to forget that that's what they put on the sandwich?
I was kind of wondering, like, what recipe? Like, this is the recipe you're showing us, and it looks gross. What other recipes do you have? Like, Um, part of me was kind of almost like impressed because I was like, man, I don't think anybody would do that anymore. Like any companies would like say, "Oh, send us a letter asking for recipes, we'll send you some." But then I thought about it and I was like, I bet no one ever asked for the recipes. So it was actually really easy. Like maybe one person.
I don't know. 'Cause I feel like somebody did because it was kind of a thing for different
Yeah,
companies to sell things. Like that's where a lot of those old Jello recipes came from, is because it was like promotional from the Jello company.
I
Like
guess.
Campbell's did the same thing.
But like Jello was a unique product at least. So it is
Yeah.
kind of like, what would I do with this? Oh, recipes.
Uh-huh.
Um, but this is cheese. I mean, it's cheese in a unique form, I guess. But like,
It's super
is it
easy to
really
melt
gonna?
cheese, so you can easily put it into spinach.
Ugh. But like, is there anything groundbreaking about it in terms of recipes? I don't think so.
It probably was like an early form of processed cheese that most people hadn't seen before, because cheese is usually pretty hard, and this is like
Mm.
spreadable cheese.
And that's probably why it looked disgusting to me. I'm not into processed cheese, really. Well, anyway, has nothing to do with Alice. It just happens to be made by the Kraft company, so
It's an
we were
integral part of
advertising
this
cheese.
program.
Yeah,
I mean, it's literally Kraft television theater.
yeah. For the Hallmark one, I prefer the cards they were showing for that one. I
I
don't
forgot
remember
about
if the
that.
copy we actually have online has the original commercials for Hallmark, but I remember watching it in the archive.
It could. I
That
don't remember it, but it's been years since I watched that one.
I think they were taken out. I would have chosen to keep them in just for like archival purposes. But to be fair, though, it went on for quite a while. At least this one was mercifully short, so it wasn't too bad.
They didn't spend 10 minutes showing them slopping cheese into spinach.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, compared to commercials nowadays, it felt long, but the Hallmark ones went on for a while. So there's that. But anyway, yeah, cheesy cheese. Honestly, it would have been kind of funny if they did an Alice, but like everything had to be a Kraft product, so it was like constantly brought up. Like
This sounds like a parody.
instead of the Queen baking some tarts, like where's my cheesy spinach made from Kraft Cheez-Its, Cheese Whiz, or whatever it's called. Yeah, the culprit has like cheese on their mouth still. Like I don't know. It'd be different.
Yeah,
I would watch that. That sounds hilarious.
it does. It sounds funnier
Yeah,
than this version.
yeah. Anyway, there are a few funny moments in this version, but it's just kind of eh.
Yeah.
nothing like really to write home about. I think the most shocking part is what you mentioned, the baby turning into Mortimer Snurd. Otherwise, it's kind of this weird in between of being faithful. At some points, like even some of the costumes could even look almost tennial, like the illustrations. And then, but suddenly, like it'll have Edgar Bergen and Charlie there, and that will be when it feels weird, and it's just like, oh yeah, this is a weird self-insert version. It reminds me of fan fiction I used to read as a child from other children, where it was like they literally just write down the script of their favorite movie or something, but the difference was they inserted a character that was meant to stand in for them.
It does kind of feel like that.
And the character would occasionally say things like, wow, I can't believe this is happening. But add like nothing to the story or something. I don't know. It feels a lot like that to me. So yeah, I kind of wish they just went heavier on the cheese. Like Alice wakes up instead of Edgar Bergen. It's just like Alice wakes up with her sister on the riverbank. She's like, well, it's time to go and eat our cheese from Kraft. Macaroni and cheese. Like, Alice is like, I love Kraft macaroni and cheese.
Perfect for a riverbank picnic.
Yeah. And then the sister turns to the camera. All children love Kraft macaroni and cheese. Try it for your own family.
And if you put it on spinach, it's healthy.
Meanwhile, it's so freaky process that it just counteracts any of the health from the spinach. Uh, Instead of a eat me cake, it's like Kraft cheese slices. They should hire me as a director for Alice's. I'm just saying, I have lots of great ideas.
Kraft needs to bring back their television theater program.
Just to do this. Just to do these stories again, but insert their products into it.
They probably get terrible reviews, but I would watch every episode.
I don't know. There's something about people just going all the way with something.
Yes.
Um,
That's the thing. Like, I don't love product placement. It takes me out of the story. But if they're leaning into it and like making it
that it becomes
purposely
like a
hammy,
parody.
yes, then I
Yeah.
like it.
If it's like tongue in cheek and it's they know they know what they're doing, you know what they're doing.
Uh-huh.
It's just funny. Then I could enjoy it.
Yeah,
Especially
definitely.
because otherwise, like, it's not, I feel like, it'd be annoying if it was a good production and then suddenly they did something like that. But this one is just kind of to begin with. So it
Uh-huh.
just ends up being kind of boring. But
Yeah.
it's not like perfect enough to be a good adaptation either. So it's kind of this weird in-between world, I feel like. It's not bad, but it's not good. It's just craft, And it would have been more fun if they leaned into that. That's all.
It's like they were boxed macaroni and cheese. It's not bad. It's not good. It's just Kraft.
Came up with the new tagline for them. Oh, I do have another fun factoid actually. Did you know this was broadcast from Studio 8H in Rockefeller Center, which later became Saturday Night Live in 1975?
Huh. No, I did not know that.
Isn't that nuts? Same studio. Now, whenever you watch Saturday Night Live, you could think Kraft Alice was there first. They're on hallowed ground.
It would be far too niche of a thing, but they could parody this.
They can make the Kraft Alice of our
Yes.
dreams.
Alice in Cheddarland.
I'm trying to think of anything else I want to say. Oh, another one. I forgot this note. This is obviously a very American production. It's interesting to me. It's a lot of dialogue is like straight from the book.
Hmm.
But in terms of when treacle was brought up, they almost immediately add in that treacles is molasses, just so the Americans will know what they're talking about.
I mean,
Uh,
that would have been helpful for me as a child because I thought treacle was some sort of lichen.
I
I don't
didn't
know
have
why I
any
thought that.
context. I didn't have any context for treacle or molasses. I have never had molasses.
I mean, I haven't eaten molasses, but molasses is an ingredient in lots of Christmas baked goods, so I knew it. I knew what molasses was, but I'd never heard of treacle.
Oh, maybe I have and I haven't known then.
It's a main ingredient in gingerbread. It's what gives gingerbread the dark brown color.
Oh, never mind then. I technically have.
Yeah, molasses is the main ingredient for anything Christmassy that's dark brown. There's almost certainly molasses in it.
All right. Well, good to know.
But yeah, when I was a kid and they talked about in the treacle well, I didn't realize it was a joke about a well full of molasses. I thought it was a well full of I assumed something like a lichen. Like I thought there was something growing on the walls of the well that they were eating and surviving off of this stuff. I did not know what it was.
There is some, there's also some precedents for basically like healing waters in England to be called treacle wells as well.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
kind of a play on that. There was actually a treacle well, but the Binsey, I think it's Binsey by Oxford. I didn't go there. Maybe next time I go, I should go there. But I think it was kind of a play on words, essentially of treacle is also what they called molasses for them. So they lived in the treacle well because they were very ill. Um, but because they're eating treacle molasses, so it's I don't know. Yeah.
And I thought they were ill because they were eating lichens off of an empty well wall.
You had to make sense of it at the time. You just didn't know. I wasn't that into Alice as a kid. I didn't really get into it until I was like 11 or 12.
I don't know what age I was. It probably was
Yeah.
around there. I just remember reading it as a kid and having no idea what treacle was. I just assumed it was lichen. I don't know why I thought it was that. I just filled in a gap in my brain, I guess.
I think I didn't even think about it. I was just like, yeah, whatever. Um, and then later I got the context for it being molasses. It's like, oh, okay. But I didn't like make sense of it in my mind. I just assumed it was something I didn't know.
There was so much other stuff in there that I passed over, like all the words made out for the Jabberwock poem. I didn't even try and think of those. I don't know why treacle was something that my brain tried to fill in a gap with.
I mean, you're not alone. Other people also tried. Hence why they have that line, so you know.
Yeah,
But it's kind of, it did make me think it's interesting that even a lot of American Alice's don't bother correcting it, or not correcting it, adding in anything. They just say treacle, or they don't have the story at all.
yeah, they don't, not every version has the story of the sisters in the treacle well.
I'm trying to think. I know, I think there has been at least one version where they just say molasses instead of treacle, but I can't remember which version that would have been.
I don't think there's been one that I've seen.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because
It's
I
been a
didn't
while.
figure it out from an Alice. There was some other thing I was watching, and they were talking about molasses, and someone, just an offhanded comment, someone calling it treacle, and suddenly my brain was firing, and I was like, wait, what?
You found the secret.
It makes so much more sense now.
I think I learned it from the annotated Alice.
I should buy one of those. I don't have that.
You should just be aware that Martin Gardner is a bit weird sometimes.
Is that the author?
Oh, he's the annotator, yeah.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the information is this is going to be a hot take for Carol's research, by the way, but I think he goes on a lot of irrelevant tangents sometimes. I remember there's this one annotation where he talks about like some numerical relation between like the names Alice Liddell and Lewis Carroll, and I was just like, well, that's irrelevant because Charles Dodson chose the pen name Lewis Carroll before even meeting Alice Liddell. So why does this matter? And I guess he's just I maybe he was a math person as well. So maybe he's just being nerdy and noticing connection, but I feel like people could read that and misinterpret it as Charles Dodson purposely choosing the name Lewis Carroll because it like matched her name numerically or
Mm.
something.
Yeah.
And I don't know, stuff like that kind of rubs me the wrong way. He has a few instances where like he may not provide the full picture and you're led to assume something.
Hmm.
Um, in particular, he believes or believed, he's passed on. He believed the wasp and the wig thing that came up like decades ago. That still, people say it's the real thing, and I don't think it's real. And he has this whole like thing, like trying to prove that it's the real deal, but actually everything he like, all his reasoning for why it's real, I think is actually reasoning for why it's not real. So
So
it's,
the Wasp
anyway.
and the Wig was potentially not written by Lewis Carroll.
There, all right, this is a tangent. Um, so when was it? I think in the seventh, eighth, or something. This Wasp in a Wig chapter came up, and it caused a lot of buzz. Um, because we do know there was a Wasp in a Wig character from Letters with Tenniel and Carol. So basically, at the time, Tenniel kept his letters from Carol for illustrating Looking Glass because Wonderland was so popular. He didn't realize it, so he had gotten rid of most of the correspondence at that time for Wonderland. So this time he was like, "No, I'm keeping all of it." However, the thing is, for some things they're talking about, sometimes we lack context, and this is one of them. So basically, Carol had said something about possibly shortening the book. And Tenniel suggested, well, and this is how we know we exist. Essentially, something paraphrasing because I don't know it offhand. But if you're looking for something to cut, I'd recommend The Wasp in a Wig. I can't see my way to an illustration for it, and it's basically it's just not as good as the other bits. So Carol took that suggestion, he cut it out. So we know that something like that existed. But as far as we know, it wasn't in the catalog of Carol's effects afterwards. So like when after he died, there wasn't any like record or draft of it. So as far as we know, he didn't keep his drafts of it. However, when the text supposedly came up, and when you look at the text, it's very weird because so Tenniel referred to it as a chapter, and people will talk about it as a chapter, but the way this text comes up, it's not a chapter. It is added on to the end of the White Knight chapter, which would make that chapter huge because it could be a chapter in its own. So why is this one chapter so long, supposedly? Tenniel might have misspoke at said chapter, and that was one of Gardner's justifications for believing that this was the real deal. And he's like, well, he just like he might have misspoken by calling it a chapter, and I'm like, or he meant a chapter. There's also that like I don't, yeah, people misspeak all the time, but he might have actually meant a chapter because why would you think this one chapter would be so long? And then the text is just not very good. It's just not very memorable, and there's some poetry in it that is absolutely trashed by Carol's usual writing. I mean, that said, though, again, Gardner justifies it that that's why it was suggested to be taken out. And I was like, but I'm like, I feel like surely the problem with it, though, is that there's no trademark with the Wasp in a Wig. All of other Carol's chapters and characters have like for lack of a better word, kind of a gimmick, something they talk about that they end up being known for. Like Humpty Dumpty talks about on birthdays. The Mad Tea Party has a thing going on with time, like. But whereas the Wasp in the Wig kind of like steals little bits from other characters in Looking Glass, and he doesn't have his own thing besides that he's a wasp in a wig. So I don't know, it feels pretty weak to me because everything he says is kind of like taken from other characters. And in particular, I also think so. There's this part where Alice supposedly has an idea of asking him to recite some poetry, and I make the point that that's actually against Alice's character in Looking Glass because the whole time she's trying to get people not to tell her poetry. So why why is it when she gets to this character she decides she wants to ask him to tell her poetry? Very odd character choice, like, and supposedly in the story, she had just listened to the White Knight give this really long poem that she didn't really want to listen to. So why would she? Yeah. And then the biggest tell is that they keep selling this original text without authenticating it. None of the owners want to authenticate it because if it's fake, then they spend a bunch of money on nothing. And so that's my conspiracy theory, except not really, because I think it's not a conspiracy. I think that it is not real. All right. Yeah, and as much as I like the 1998 Looking Glass film, I think they actually kind of shoot themselves in the foot by trying to adapt this chapter. They're all like, "Oh, we're being the most complete," and it's like, no.
So where did the chapter come from then, if they don't have
um,
a way to
it
authenticate
just
it?
came up in an auction. I don't think there's actually that much information. Supposedly, it was the justification for why this would have survived was Carol must have kept it because he never threw anything away. And I'm kind of like, well, yeah, he did hold on to like everything. For some reason, he though like he didn't with this, and we know that because it wasn't in the catalog of his effects after his death. Like he a lot of his things were auctioned. So if it wasn't auctioned, that would meant his family kept it, but it didn't come from his family. So where did it come from? We don't know. We don't know what supposedly happened between Carol taking this chapter out and how it came to be now. It just ended up in an auction. So I also think that's kind of credence that it's fake.
Could it have come from Tenniel? Like, would he have had a copy that somehow fell into someone else's hands?
Maybe, but we don't have any like evidence of that either. I will say I'm not too aware of how or why it couldn't have been from Tenniel because I'm not aware of Tenniel's life and death as much as I am about Carol. So like maybe, possibly. The only thing I have a problem with though is that we just don't know. I feel like it would be a better fake if they had come up with a providence for it, but the problem is that then it wouldn't be then it would have to be real because it'd have a provenance to it. So yeah, it just came up with like no history, supposedly.
Huh. Interesting.
So yeah, I think it's fake, and that's my hot take. I'm not the only one who thinks it's fake, but it's a very. I was convinced by Caroline Leach, and she wrote a great article about it, going way into much more detail than I did. But anyway, so going back to Martin Gardner, his annotations are good. You just have to kind of like take some things with a grain of salt.
Okay.
In terms of like context at the times and like references that he's making, it's quite good. Like he'll tell you if a poem is a reference to another poem, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we've gone far off track. Is there anything about this one we want to talk about?
I feel like we've talked about most of the things. I think the only other thing that I had of note was I thought it was weird that they skipped like everything with the queen and went straight to the trial.
Yeah, that's true. We don't get like a croquet
Yeah.
or anything.
And they also skipped the griffin. They went straight to the mock turtle.
That was also kind of weird. Oh, also weird about the mock turtle. He says like slurp multiple times.
That was borderline disturbing.
Yeah, I was kind of like, why? Like,
Stop
stop it.
doing that.
Yeah. Oh, do you know? So after the tea party, there's something happens, but I'm never quite sure what happened. Like, is it an explosion?
I don't know. There were multiple times where I was like, wait, what? Because it felt like they were skipping things and they just went on to the next thing. And I was like, wait, what just happened?
Yeah,
I think that was one of them where I was not quite sure.
yeah, it was quite weird. It's also weird because they add in like a sleeping scene for some
Yes, that was
reason.
so weird. I was like, what is this? I don't
Yeah,
understand.
it reminds me of the poppies from Oz,
Yeah,
but they sing as well,
yeah.
which is
Like,
another
why were the
point.
flowers trying to put them to sleep? It was so, but it was weird. I did not understand what they were going for there.
Yeah, I didn't really see the point either. Just
Yeah.
and also Rockabye Baby as a tune has a huge presence in this Alice because it's also being sung for the baby too, and then it's being sung for Alice and Edgar and Charlie here with the flowers. Like
Whoever wrote this must really like that song.
apparently. We also have random Looking Glass in here with the Tweedles. I
Uh-huh.
almost forgot about them. I'm glad I wrote this down. And then we have both of the knights, the Red Knight and the White Knight, which we also have this weird thing with the Red Knight where he wants to capture people to listen to him recite Jabberwocky, the poem. Which he does, oh, he does okay with that.
He does. But also, like, why?
Yeah, why?
and he kept coming back.
He had more presence than the White Knight.
Yeah, it was like this is the most screen time any version of the Red Knight has ever gotten.
Yeah. I don't know, they just thought it was really suspenseful, I guess.
I
It's very
guess.
weird.
But was it weirder than Cheese Whiz and Spinach?
No, nothing's weirder than that. And then I got one more. I noticed that this king, so in the book, the queen orders to execute people, and the king pardons people, so no one actually gets executed, right?
Uh-huh.
In this one, the king just executes people. There's no pardons going on.
I really wanted him to chop off Charlie McCarthy's head.
Yeah, he ordered it, so it's happening,
I really
presumably.
thought that was going to happen because, like, he's a dummy. They could easily remove the head.
I mean, it would have been something, I guess, to that weird dialogue about shooting multiple indigenous people with a bullet, one bullet. Do it to your head. Like, that would have been something.
So many weird choices in this.
Yeah. It's not the worst Alice I've ever watched.
Oh no. I've seen much
Yeah.
worse than this. And this one's biggest crime is being kind of boring in parts.
Yeah. I think this one's more of a novelty than actually a good, nice version of Alice.
Yeah.
That said, though, like, if I were to watch an early television version, I'd probably rather watch the Hallmark version. Maybe the Forward Theater version. I haven't watched that one enough. I've only watched it the once, but it was better than this still. So yeah, it's not my favorite one. I guess there is still like a little bit of a special place in my heart just because it was the first early television Alice I got to watch,
Uh-huh.
and I was really excited that we were able to find a version to put online. And I like Arthur Treacher. I would have liked to see him as a cat in a normal version.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, this is what we got. I don't think I would recommend this to much people. I'd only recommend this if you're into this kind of era of television.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Or if you're a diehard Alice completionist.
yeah, I wouldn't this isn't a version that I would recommend for people because I don't know about you, but I do have like tiers of Alice's. So, there's like the tier everybody watches and the tier that like kind of a bit common, but not as common as say like Disney or the Burt and Alice.
Uh-huh.
And then I got tiers of like more obscure Alice's that I think should be watched more or appreciated more. And this one is kind of just in the low middle. It's not the worst, but it's not what I would recommend to people. If
Mm-hmm.
someone was saying to me, I'm going to watch the Kraft Alice, I'd probably ask, have you seen the Hallmark version or the Ford version first? Because I feel like those are more worth it. But, still, yeah, it's not bad. I'm not going to say don't watch it, but I'm not going to encourage you to watch it either.
I mean, if someone is saying to you that they want to watch the Kraft version of Alice, that means that they know it exists. And I feel like that knowledge alone means that, yeah, they probably should watch it.
They're
Because
really into obscure Alice's. Yeah,
some random
yeah,
person is just not going to have any idea that this thing exists.
that's true. That's true. Though I feel like we have like come across people in, like the comments who somehow randomly come across it.
Sometimes I'll see comments from people be like, I saw this when I was 3 years old or whatever. It's been 70 years.
Yeah,
So maybe they could watch it again just for some
it
nostalgia.
has been 70. It's been like 71 years. Wow. But yeah, I guess maybe if you're a fan of any like Broadway personalities at that time that were
Uh-huh.
in this, maybe that too. Otherwise, there's better versions to watch personally.
Yeah.
Would I watch this over the Burton Alice? Yes. But I'm a nerd, so yeah.
Well, I suppose that's probably all we have to say,
Yeah, I think so.
and more about Kraft theater and Kraft cheese.
If Kraft is interested in making Alice in Craftland a thing, you can contact me. I'd be happy to be a part of that.
Yeah. I would definitely watch that. Well, I'm sure we'll be back for more Alice in the future, but until then, do you want to let people know where they can find you online?
Sure. So I have Phantomwise on YouTube for the Alice related media. And then I'm Love Gift of a Fairy Tale also on YouTube for anything that strikes my fancy. And that's it.
Okay. Well, we'll see you next time for something else random and obscure in Wonderland.
I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully without the cheese.
It seems unlikely that there will be a big cheese presence in whatever we pick next. But you never
Well,
know.
now we'll have to look.
Thanks for listening to Wonderland Wednesday. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and follow my co-hosts as well. All of our links will be in the description below. If you'd like more podcasts like this one, all of our shows are available on YouTube as well as most podcast platforms. If you'd like to support this show, check out Johncast Media on Patreon for everything here, plus bonus and extended episodes you won't find anywhere else. We'll be back soon with another brand new episode, so thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Come along and pass through the looking glass into Wonderland.